I never thought I'd be the guy to get played like a fool, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I was married to Lisa for about 2 years. We met in college, hit it off pretty quickly, and I always thought we had something real. She was beautiful, confident, witty, a little bitchy sometimes, but that's what I liked about her. She always knew what she wanted and went for it, even if it meant being a little cruel. She had this fiery attitude that I found intoxicating. Looking back, maybe I was naive, but I genuinely believed she loved me, or at least I wanted to believe that. We were planning our wedding and everything seemed perfect, until suddenly it was. I started noticing little things. She'd be distracted on her phone more than usual, and her excuses for being busy or tired started to run thin. I'd ask her about it. She'd brush it off with a sarcastic comment, saying I was paranoid or being jealous. That was her favorite line, making me feel like I was overreacting, like I was just imagining things. Then came the night before the wedding. I was supposed to pick her up after she finished her last-minute dress fitting. When I got to her apartment, she was already gone and her phone was lying on the coffee table. I noticed a message pop up on the screen just as I was about to pick it up. It was from someone named Chris, no last name, just "can't wait to see you tonight." My stomach dropped. I froze, blinking at the message like I'd seen a ghost. I wasn't stupid. I knew what that meant. My mind immediately raced through every possible scenario. Who the hell was Chris? Was that her coworker, friend, or someone else? The message was clearly flirtatious, and it was sent just hours before I was supposed to walk down the aisle with her. I felt this weird, sickening mixture of anger and confusion. How could she do this? How could she be so blatantly disrespectful? And more than that, did I ever really know her? Were all those moments, those conversations, just manipulation to keep me hooked? I didn't confront her right then. I just stared at the message, trying to process what it meant. The thought that she'd cheat on me on the night before. Our wedding felt like a punch to the gut. It was like the universe was punishing me for trusting her, for believing she was different. I kept thinking about her bitchy smirk, her sharp tongue, the way she'd lie to my face about small things like she was testing my limits. That moment made me realize she had been lying about everything, all along. I just hadn't wanted to see it. The wedding was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. Instead, I was sitting there with her secret, feeling like I was about to be humiliated in front of everyone. I spent that night tossing and turning, replaying every little sign, every flirtatious glance, every excuse she'd thrown my way. I knew she was cheating. I could feel it in my bones. The next morning, I decided I wouldn't let her get away with it. I would confront her, face to face, and finally get some answers. Little did I know, that confrontation would change everything, not just about her, but about how I saw myself and what I was willing to accept in a relationship. I just had no idea how deep the rabbit hole went. The morning of the wedding, I was a mess. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, and every time I closed my eyes, I saw that message from Chris. It haunted me. I kept thinking about how she'd lied to me so many times, about where she was, who she was talking to, what she was doing. Now I had proof, and it felt like a slap in the face. How long had she been cheating? Was it just that night, or was this going on for weeks? My mind spun with questions I knew I'd never get the answers to if I didn't act. I decided I couldn't just ignore it. I needed to confront her before everything went down. I slipped out of bed, grabbed my phone, and texted her to meet me at her place in an hour. I didn't tell her what I knew, I just said I needed to talk. I remember standing there in my apartment, hands trembling, heart pounding like a drum. I kept telling myself to stay calm, to be rational, but inside I was anything but. When she arrived, she looked perfectly composed, her usual bitchy smirk, that confident attitude. She knew I was upset, but she played it off like I was overreacting. "What's wrong, Mike?" she asked with a sassy tone, crossing her arms. "You look like you've seen a ghost." I looked her straight in the eyes and just dumped it all out. The message from Chris, how I'd seen her phone, how I knew she'd been lying. Her face didn't change much at first. She blinked a few times, then let out a sarcastic laugh. "Oh, come on," she said, rolling her eyes. "That guy's just a friend. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. You're paranoid as usual," but I wasn't buying it. I told her I didn't care what she said, that I'd seen enough. I asked her straight up, "Are you sleeping with him? Are you cheating on me?" Her response was a typical Lisa move. She scoffed and said, "You're crazy. It's none of your damn business. I've told you I'm tired of your accusations and your insecurities. Maybe I don't want to marry someone who's so insecure all the time." That's when I saw the real her, the bitchy, manipulative side. She threw her head back and gave me this venomous smile. "Maybe you're just not enough for me," she snapped. "Maybe you're boring and I needed some excitement. You're not the only one who's been unfaithful here, Mike. You think I don't know about your little secrets, or that I haven't been pretending to be this perfect fiancé for your sake?" I was stunned. My mind was racing, but I felt numb at the same time. I could see she was lying. She always was good at that. She was trying to turn it around, make me look like the bad guy, but I knew the truth. The truth was out there, waiting to crush me. I just didn't want to believe it. I thought I knew her, that I loved her, but maybe I was just a pawn in her game all along. Maybe I'd always been a fool, trusting someone who was just using me for her own gratification. That conversation ended with her storming out, leaving me standing there, feeling like I'd been hit by a freight train. The wedding was supposed to start in a few hours, and I was supposed to be the happiest man alive. Instead, I was a broken shell of a person staring at the evidence of her betrayal. I didn't even know if I wanted to go through with it anymore. I was left wondering what kind of person I'd married: a liar, a manipulator, someone who'd cheat on the night before our wedding and then lie her way out of it. And the worst part, I still loved her, even as I hated her for what she'd done. After that confrontation, everything felt like a blur. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed, staring at my phone, unsure whether to call off the wedding, scream at her, or just run away. My head was pounding and my stomach was twisted in knots. I honestly felt like I'd been punched in the gut. The girl I thought I knew, the girl I was supposed to marry today, turns out she was just playing me all along. I kept telling myself I should just forget about it, wipe my hands clean and walk away. But part of me, a really stupid part, still wanted to believe she'd come clean, that maybe she'd explain herself, that there was some reason behind her betrayal. Yeah, I know, that part was naive as hell. She had lied to me so many times that I should have seen it coming a mile away. But I guess I was just hoping she'd be honest at least once, just to save what little dignity I had left. I decided I'd confront her again, this time more intensely. I called her, and she answered with that sharp, dismissive tone she always had. I could hear the irritation in her voice when I told her I was done. I told her I couldn't do this anymore. I couldn't marry someone who was clearly manipulating me, lying to my face and cheating behind my back. Her response: she laughed, that cruel, biting laugh she always used when she thought she had the upper hand. "Wow, Mike," she said, voice dripping with sarcasm. "You're really losing your mind, huh? Just because I flirted with a guy and maybe went a little further doesn't mean I don't love you. You're so insecure, it's pathetic. You think I'd cheat on you just before our wedding. You're imagining things as usual. Maybe you're just jealous because I'm better looking than your boring ass." That was the moment I realized how much she hated being caught, how much she enjoyed twisting the knife. I'd spent months trying to make this work, trying to see the best in her, and she was out there playing her little games and lying her ass off. I wanted to scream, but I just hung up. I knew I had to make a decision, and fast. The truth was, I couldn't go through with the wedding now. Not just because she cheated, but because I felt like a fool. Like I'd been used, manipulated, and maybe even a little stupid for trusting her. All those times I thought she was just bossy, maybe bitchy. Turns out she was just a master manipulator, running her little game on me. I looked at myself in the mirror and wondered if I'd ever truly known her, or if I'd just been another pawn in her scheme. Could I ever trust her again? Could I even look at her without feeling sick? The answer was clear: I couldn't. I called the best man, Jesse, and told him everything. He was furious, more at her than at me. Said I deserved someone who wouldn't screw me over like that. I knew Jesse was right. I had to face the facts. I had been played and she'd been lying for a long time. I realized I had to cut her out of my life, no matter how much it hurt. The wedding was off. The girl I thought I was going to marry was just a damn fraud. I was left with nothing but the cold, hard truth and a whole lot of anger I didn't know what to do with. The days that followed were a nightmare. After canceling the wedding, I felt this strange mix of relief and utter devastation. I kept replaying everything in my head, the way she lied about everything, how she looked at me with that contemptuous smirk, the way her voice always had that biting edge when she wanted to cut me down. Honestly, I was angry at myself for not seeing it sooner. How could I have been so blind? I had trusted her with everything, and she'd used that trust to manipulate me, to get what she wanted. I remember sitting alone in my apartment, trying to process what had happened. The shock wore off, and all I was left with was this deep, gnawing emptiness. I felt betrayed, humiliated, like I'd been played for a fool this entire time. My mind kept circling back to that message from Chris. Who was he? How long had this been going on? And most painfully, did she love him? Was I just some placeholder in her life, someone she used until she found someone better? That thought cut me deeper than I'd like to admit. I started noticing other things, too. Small signs I'd ignored before: her dismissive attitude when I brought up plans, her avoiding my eyes when I questioned her about her whereabouts, and the way she'd get defensive if I pressed too hard. It all clicked into place. She'd been stringing me along, pretending to be the perfect fiancé, all the while sneaking around behind my back. And for what? To feel powerful, to get some thrill. That bitchy attitude, her sharp tongue, her constant lies, all that was just a mask. I couldn't stand the thought of her sitting in my apartment, pretending everything was fine. I had to get out. I packed what I could and moved out while she was at work. I didn't want to see her face, didn't want to hear her lies again. As I carried my stuff out, I felt like I was finally waking up from a nightmare. But the pain was real. I kept thinking about how I'd wasted so much time loving someone who didn't deserve it. The worst part, I still loved her. Deep down, a part of me refused to accept it was over. I kept telling myself maybe it was just a mistake, that she'd apologize and change, but I knew better. I knew she was the same person who had lied to my face, who had cheated the night before our wedding, and who had spent months manipulating me. That girl was gone. The girl I loved was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. Now I was left with the question of what to do next. Do I try to forgive her? Do I just walk away and forget it ever happened? Every time I tried to picture life without her, it felt like losing a part of myself. But I also knew I had to protect what little dignity I had left. I couldn't keep living in that fog of betrayal. I was hurt, yes, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. Sometimes the truth hits you hard, and it's only then that you start to see things for what they are. And what I saw was someone who lied, cheated, and manipulated me, all for her own selfish pleasure. That realization is what finally pushed me to make my decision. The weeks that followed were a roller coaster of emotions. I tried to pick up the pieces of my life, but honestly, every day was a struggle. I kept asking myself if I should try to forgive her, if maybe I was overreacting. But deep down, I knew I couldn't. Not after what I found out. Trust. That was gone. Respect. Completely shattered. And even if she apologized 1,000 times, I couldn't forget how she'd lied and cheated right before our wedding day. That kind of betrayal doesn't just go away. I had to decide what was better for me, to walk away completely or try to work through it. I thought about giving her a chance, but every time I saw her bitchy smirk, I remembered the secret text, the sneaking around, the lies. I realized I'd been nothing but a pawn in her game. She used my love against me, manipulated me into believing in a fairy tale that was never real. I started to see her for what she really was, a selfish, manipulative woman who only cared about herself. One day, I finally sat her down for a serious talk. I told her I couldn't do this anymore. I wasn't going to be part of her game. I told her I knew about everything, about her affair with Chris, about how she'd been lying to me for months. Her reaction was classic Lisa. She tried to deny it at first, then got defensive, then started to cry and play the victim. "You don't understand," she whined. "It was just sex. It didn't mean anything. I was stressed and he was there, and I didn't think it would go past one night. I love you, I swear." But I wasn't buying her crocodile tears. I looked her in the eyes and said, "You lied to me every step of the way. You used me, manipulated me, and cheated on me. I don't know if I can ever forgive you. I thought I was marrying someone who loved me, but I was just a tool for your games." That was the moment I realized I needed to take control, to finally put an end to the nightmare. I told her I was leaving, and I meant it. As I gathered my things and walked out that door for the last time, I felt a strange sense of relief mixed with heartbreak. I was hurt, angry, and betrayed, but I also knew I was finally free. Free from her lies, her manipulation, her bitchy attitude. I realized I'd been so caught up in trying to fix something that was already broken from the start. The pain of betrayal was sharp, but it also made me see clearly. I saw how much I'd been willing to overlook, how I'd let her walk all over me because I didn't want to believe she could do this. Now I'm trying to rebuild my life piece by piece. I don't know if I'll ever trust someone again like I trusted her. Maybe I'm too cautious now, or maybe I'm just scarred. But one thing, for sure, I learned a lot about myself through this. I learned that I deserve honesty, respect, and someone who won't manipulate or cheat on me. And I hope anyone reading this understands that the pain might be deep, but it's also a wake-up call. Don't ignore the signs. Don't let someone use your love and trust as leverage. Because in the end, you're worth more than that. Now, sitting here reflecting on everything, I realize how much this whole experience has changed me. I used to believe in fairy tales, believe that love and trust could fix anything. But what I learned is that some betrayals cut so deep, they leave scars that never fully heal. Still, I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought, that I don't have to accept lies, manipulation, or betrayal from anyone, especially not from someone I was supposed to spend my life with. When I think about Lisa, I feel a mixture of anger, disappointment, and mostly pity. She thought she could get away with it all, that her lies would never catch up with her. But I see now that her manipulations only revealed what she truly was, a selfish, bitchy woman who cared only for herself. And honestly, I'm better off without her. I don't need someone who lies, cheats, and manipulates to feel powerful. That said, I'm not perfect. I still feel the sting of what I lost, my trust, my future, that hope I once had. But I also feel a strange sense of liberation. I'm finally free to find someone who actually values honesty and loyalty. Someone who won't see me as a pawn or a fool. Moving forward, I know I'll be more cautious, more guarded. And that's okay, because I now understand that true love isn't about sacrifice or blind trust. It's about respect, honesty, and knowing that you're worth someone's loyalty. So to anyone out there who's going through something similar, remember this. Don't ignore the signs. Don't let anyone manipulate you into thinking their lies are just small or harmless. Because eventually the truth will come out, and when it does, it's better to face it head-on than live in denial. Trust your instincts, and never forget your worth. No one deserves to be played like a fool, especially not by someone who claims to love you. I've learned that the hard way, but I hope others don't have to. Trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it's nearly impossible to fix. So protect it, cherish it, and never settle for less than you deserve.